Hello, everyone, and welcome to session Who Knows of the Infinite. Uh, say hello, players that are in your 12th session of a game.
Hello, players in
Hello.
the 12th session of your game.
All right, Maddie, you get 1 experience. That's real experience that I'm giving to Lucira for doing that.
No. Okay, listen. That's
hello.
not all of us.
Hello, Jack.
Yeah,
in
you're
your 12th
right.
Session of this game.
You're right. There's only maybe only Chris has been in every session of this game. Lucira, minus 1 experience. Chris, gain 1 experience for showing up regularly. This is what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to start pitting you against each other for 1 experience, at the start of every game. So this is the last week for those of you that watch our show. Let me start that again. This is the last week without Andrew. It's not the last week of the show. For those of you that watch regularly, Valis will be back next week, and presumably won't die. Might die. There's a chance. There's always a chance with Valis. That he will get into a situation that he just will not back down from. But hopefully not. And then we'll be back to normal. And then we'll do a couple of weeks of this and be back to Charlie's one-shot in the coming weeks. How's everyone doing?
I'm doing sure.
It is warm.
I realized as I started this that I kind of feel like I look like a backstage crew at a theater thing with how black all my jumper is. I was like, I could probably get a colourful scarf to be wearing in the middle of the night to not be just wearing black. But I didn't. So here we are. Our scene opens in a minimalistic room. It's an open plan living kitchen area. From the front door where the camera is, the left-hand side of the room is filled with a window that shows a beautiful green sunny plains outside that we all know to be fake and generated for the people inside it. We see a tall, blonde-haired woman on the phone, or on the smart slab, taking a video call with someone. And she says, well, whoever... I wasn't meant to get any calls. And she's looking at the call history for a moment and says, and I did get a call from you. And the person on the other side is like, we don't really hear it, but there's spluttering on the screen and they're trying to explain themselves. And she says, look, I'll deal with this later, but you should maybe be looking for another position. There's a shake to her voice and a shake to her hand as that she's holding the smart slab as she ends the call. It goes back to a calendar that she was looking at, and the camera kind of pans up, shows that she has a therapy session in the afternoon, and before that a doctor's appointment, and a meeting with the Imperial management team that is in charge of some of the things on Canthi. And then before that, highlighted in red on her calendar, is kid leaving. She puts the smart slab down and the camera spins back out the door. And we follow the not retreating, but the forging forward steps of Kid across this landscape of metal pavement surrounded by glass under which green nuclear haze and energy is not bubbling because it doesn't really function in that way, but swirling almost like the inside of a magic ball from some kind of fantasy land. The camera follows very quickly as Kid moves forward, takes a very large elevator all the way up to the sky level of Canthi. Most cities, most planets, when they are built this way, tend to keep the sky for the nobility and the ground for the slums. But Canthi is a particular type of planet. And as you move up and step out of the elevator, Kid, you see a much more was going to say down to earth, but it's a much more grounded experience up here. There are big lean-tos with people selling various hot foods. Somebody's selling soups that they're putting into a thermos and giving to people with like a boba straw through the top of the thing. There's a couple of people talking about like a new religion that's formed. You're probably aware of it. Somebody's claiming that your planet has like a god of commerce, and that's why they've allowed Canty to prosper. They don't have a lot of followers. There's a lot of this stuff. But unlike what your mother thought, you don't really have plans other than not being there and not following her path. So do you have a place that you had planned to stay?
So, probably on the elevator ride up, there's probably this like a shot of a kid kind of like fidgeting a bit with the strap of their single duffel bag before transitioning past like a part of the elevator where you no longer are able to see them, and then whenever they reappear, they have their slab out and is like just scrolling for any type of like ad for PMCs, for really like anything that involves off-world transport.
On the system network, Canty is, for all of the things that have gone wrong with the planet historically, quite an affluent planet. A lot of Imperial people come here to sell stuff, and there's a very pro-Empire like feeling among the populace. So most people don't need to find a way to just get off on their own, because most people will spend their money. Most of your money, Anith would be able to track at the moment. So you're kind of scrolling through the internet thing, and there's like a job listing thing, and there's like a drop down. It's like jobs on Canty, jobs off Canty, work remotely, but still with an office on Canty. Like all of these different options for this, and you're like off Canty. It narrows it down. It's like work as a space waiter on a cruise ship. It's like a bunch of cruise ship jobs. There's a lot of come work for the Empire. The Empire wants you to be an auditor. It's like, it's not a military thing. It's like, come and be an accountant. Come and be a low-level legal clerk. But then you get to like the PMC section, and they're like, the big banner at the top of this is just, do you have an Imperial identity? And it's like, if yes, then you have a job. And they're like just a list of like 50 PMCs that are constantly hiring here. And we see as you step off the space elevator, you're like, they're all essentially the same. All of these jobs are advertising the same thing. They're advertising it at a standardized pay rate, which is quite good. You get danger pay, all of that stuff. None of these are corporate runs because they're private. So like none of them are under a heading of like Hyperion, because not Hyperion, Hinderoi. Not the Borderlands Corporation. that is not based on it all. None of them are under those things, so these are all like small, essentially small business PMCs. And we just see kids finger like click, accept interview, accept interview, accept interview on like a few of them. And we like smash cut to you in a room. The camera kind of... sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, kid, after learning that there is a option for select multiple and then just boxes, and then hitting like a single button does that. And after seeing that, in their haste of just finding something, not realizing that their first interview technically is in about 10 minutes, very hastily after getting off the elevator, tries to find what can be suitably like a private alley, before throwing down their duffel bag and opening and kind of rummaging through really quickly. And you see a very warring face kind of come across kid. One partially disgust, one also partially something else, as they quickly begin to take off a few of their top layers and begin to pull out clothing that they stole from beneath to look official.
That's very funny. All right, so the camera pulls away from you, changing into your corporate outfit, and you can describe it as you get into this first interview. And instead of a smash cut, the camera like zooms to we just see the top of Kid's head at the base, and it's like at a work hub building where people can just rent the space to work for whatever they want to be doing. So like people come here and do maybe their remote work if they want to help with stuff. But of the maybe there's probably I will roll to tell you how many PMCs there are. There's actually only 45 that are currently hiring. 5 of them, for some reason, they're not. But of those 45, somewhere in the vicinity of 15 are live interviews in this building. Another 10 are live interviews in a building across the road that is also a work hub. And then the rest are like, well, just do it on your smart slab. Because they don't care. But your first one, and every interview that we're going to see in this process takes place in this building. And as we see you walk through the front door, what does your stolen corporate look entail?
It's like a slightly futuristic button-up that is mainly white, but as it goes up, the inner lining where the buttons connect slowly kind of like fans out into a black that then becomes the collar. And then they just wear kind of like a business casual like type of dress pant, which they picked out specifically because it's long enough to hide the fact that they're still wearing boots.
Sure. You walk in. There's like a real similarity to Kid now versus Anith in the earlier moments of like taking that smart slab call, as you're dressed quite similarly. You walk in, and then we see you sitting in a chair, and you're like sitting very upright. It's an interview, so you're very on the ball. And the first person comes in, and they are this very very dark yellow skinned humanoid. They have big like almost their jaw like extends out into like bone that goes out like almost a shovel blade. They are wearing, I suppose you could really charitably call it a suit, but it's a suit that has probably been through several sewerage systems with the wearer in it, and that is your impression from their smell as they walk in as well. And they look at you and say, can you... And they look down at a clipboard to finish the question because they've forgotten what they're going to say. Can you shoot a gun?
Yeah.
Can you swing a sword?
I'm pretty sure anyone can do that.
Have you ever killed a person?
No.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. And they just walk out. And the next group person walks in. This person, very smartly dressed. They don't walk in. We smash cut to you sitting, looking slightly more quizzical than put together. And this person walks in and they have a smart slab and they're like tapping through it and they say, is your name Flanius Axel?
No.
Oh, then the position's been filled. Thank you for coming. And they walk out immediately. And we smash cut to you being slightly more frustrated at the process. The next person walks in and goes, why were you interested in applying for Grandmother's Carnage in Space?
Like the elderly?
They don't laugh. I find that very funny. They say, is your race's typical lifespan over 100?
No.
Do you think you're closer to death than birth?
Probably now.
Is that a state of being that you enjoy?
Can you just mark no?
No. And they smile at you, and this is like the first time anybody's shown you any emotion. They slide a like sticker across the table to you, and it just says like, "Grandmothering is a state of mind," as they walk out. We see a few more where we don't even see the interview, as you just deteriorate from this very put together interviewee at the very start to just like 15 interviews of just people that are not interested in filling a position. They kind of either want just a person to die, or they want someone that is just like a trained killer. They're not like looking for anything that is actually a skill set based thing. What does Kid look like after 15 of these? They haven't all been in this room.
In a very like flip book-esque cut of just going through these 15 interviews, slowly, with the constant shot on Kid, you just see Kid progressively slumping more and more and more. At some point, the collar gets unbuttoned. At some point, the sleeves get rolled up. And then by the time it finishes, Kid isn't even really... is more just like 1,000-yard staring past the door and just waiting to hear the sound of it open.
The door opens and you see 3 people come in. Some of these have been multiple people. None of the ones I've described were, because I couldn't think of a way to make that particularly funny. But 3 people walk in. There's a smaller, quite petite-looking, very standard human with short red hair, almost a pixie cut, and glasses, holding a smart slab. A bit of a burlier, shorter man comes in last, and then a taller, dark-haired man. Dark-haired man stands in front of you and says, what's your preferred name?
Kid.
Pronouns?
They.
Kid. Hi, it's great to meet you. I really... he like looks at the other 2 and goes, I like these interviews. They're fun. So, do you have much experience with being in a private military company or anything that would lend itself to that? There's no wrong answers.
Kid kind of like goes to answer, and it goes to just respond with the cookie cutter, what has been the response every single time. And there's like a brief moment where they just consider just stop talking there and getting up and leaving, but looks back ahead. Okay, so look, if this is just gonna boil down into a 20-question version of can you shoot good? Yeah, I can. More importantly, to you, I don't really care what the pay is. I don't really care what the benefits are. I don't care where I'm staying. I just want to go anywhere.
He goes,
and
well,
if
he lets you continue, he's very polite.
If you can be that, I will be whatever the fuck you need me to be.
He like leans over to the woman on the smart slab. It's like, I know I said there's no wrong answers, but that felt like a wrong answer. And she like looks at him like, it's not my job to interview people. But while he's distracted, the man at the back steps forward and goes, pulls out a pistol from somewhere within his coat. He wasn't wearing like an open holster, although people are welcome to on campy. Pulls it out. You watch him as he very, very quickly breaks it down and says, all right, put that back together. And he puts it in front of you. You're welcome to make a ranged weapons check to put it back together, but Kid would just know how to do this from your life. But it's up to you if you would like to. Kid.
It's a very apparent that he's like very very upfrontly testing.
Yeah. Yeah, like, this is a test,
Okay.
and you have experienced tests before, so...
Kid has progressively gotten beyond 100% done since entering this building. And so in order to continue to keep eye contact with him, Kid just deploys Dart from their shoulder, which kind of has to like work its way up past the collar of the shirt to then go down and look at the gun, and the visor pops up over Kid's face, and Kid continues to stare at the man, but because of Dart's angle, is still able to pick up the gun and begin to work on it without actually changing the position of their head.
Alright, that's fantastic. I need you to make me a bureaucracy check. You just put the gun together. That will happen.
Okay.
He keeps eye contact with you the whole time as well.
$22.
You're putting it together. You notice that there's a serial number on the gun. That absolutely, that serial number cannot match this type of gun. That's like a serial number for like a high ordnance cannon, which would make this gun illegal to carry most of the time in Imperial space.
Gotcha.
He watches you put it together, and after you finish, like, sticks out his hand for you to give it back.
Kid will just look at the gun for a second before turning it to where they can hand it back appropriately.
I don't know if this man is capable of smiling, but his mouth moves in a way that maybe is a smile. It's impossible for you to know at this point.
I was going to say, could I have Dart, because I said he was looking down at the gun, could I have Dart snap a picture of the serial number?
Yes. And I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't be able to turn off any sound of that happening, so yes, of course you can.
Okay.
By this time, Reed has become undistracted by asking Linux if you gave a bad answer, and goes, "Oh, no, Captain, I'm conducting this interview, Captain. I am putting my foot down, and I am in charge of this interview." And he says, "So, you just want to get off Canthy? 20 questions about shooting guns. Can you shoot a gun?" You see the captain roll his eyes behind Reed's head back.
Yes.
Do you have any other skill set that you think it would be important that we know about?
By this point, Dart has kind of come back to Kid, and Kid just points up at Dart. This is a reconnaissance bot. I'm really good with it. Also, if you're asking for things you should probably know, if you kick me out of this room, I can turn this into the authorities because that's an illegal firearm. And you are on a registered Imperial planet.
The captain laughs, which I don't think I can laugh in the gravel of his voice without not being able to talk for 4 hours. And Linux also chuckles a little bit, and Reed goes, "I'm going to write down blackmail as an extra skill." And then he turns to Linux, who is already putting the smart slab in front of you with the contractor sign, and Reed says, "I like your boots," as you are given a contractor sign to join the Red Riders PMC.
Kid briefly has kind of a look down and very very much under their breath, just fuck, whenever they realize that the boots were visible the entire time. But does take the slab and quickly signs.
We fast forward a little bit. They are not here for long. They were finishing a job, and they're probably shipping off in the same day. And you are brought aboard their ship for the first time. You are greeted by the three of them again. Reed says, "This is Linux. She'll help you with pretty much anything you want. She talks a lot. She's literally not said a word the entire time that you have been in a room with her. She talks a lot, but she's pretty good. I am Lieutenant Reed. You'll be directly reporting to me for most things at the start. This is Captain Stoyer," he says to the burlier man. And the captain just nods and says, "None of the people on here have threatened to blackmail me with the gun. Some people don't notice. Some people notice, and that's like an additional skill. But I liked the blackmail. That was pretty good."
Kid is slightly taken aback at being complimented for blackmailing, as this is probably the starkest contrast that they've had from where they have come from. But tries to hide that as much as they can, and gives like what they think is like nod to the captain.
Just roll like pure leadership, or like really whatever plus charisma you like, just to see how cool you come off to everybody else and the audience.
11.
I think to them it looks kind of cool, but to the audience we like just see a like droplet of sweat, like in that really very well. This is not a real thing that people do, but it's how it shows that you are not 100% comfortable. And Reed goes, "Great, we got to go kill a bounty hunter. So I would say strap in, but we don't have seatbelts because this is a larger vessel than is required to have seatbelts. You know this. I'll show you to your room." And he is just very happily not shutting up as he gives you a tour of the ship. And unless you have anything else you would like to say upon meeting, basically just to Reed at this point, we will come back to the far less chill situation the rest of you are in real time.
As Kid is following Reed, is there some sort of like disposal, like can or like something of that nature?
Yeah, there's like you can see either there's like a hole in the wall a little bit further down the corridor where you can put something, or there's like a little cleaning bot that seems like it is picking stuff up.
Yeah. As Kid is following Reed, which they're back in normal clothes again, the flashback probably ends and camera cuts away as it focuses more in on them on this trash can in the wall disposal in the wall as they pass it by. But you see Kid's hand throw in Anif's clothes as they go by.
And it cuts from that to Anif later, about to go to the doctor's appointment, looking in a closet full of very similar looking business clothes, and there's just like not one set, but a pair of pants from one and a jacket from another missing. And there's just like a little vein pop on the side of her head of irritation. But she ends up smiling and just matches the two things that were left together in a less perfect match. Then the camera fades, and it comes back to this dark void. As Nyx, your consciousness begins to reawaken, and it tingles, and heat. Like, the first thing you feel is heat from the surrounding area. You go to open your eyes and you're not quite there yet. You're like aware that you are very badly hurt, and you're aware that you are in your own body, but you don't have a lot of control other than that. But the nanites, or the form that they take in your psionic void, are swirling around you in a way that whenever they've been here, it's been like Nyx is here, and the nanites are here, and it is two separate entities at odds, and now they are swirling around you as if water and wind, kind of propelling you towards that heat that you can feel to try and bring your consciousness back into being.
Nyx, in her sort of mental space, finds herself just tracking the motions of the nanites. And she kind of cringes at the heat. She's not a big fan of especially warm environments. But there's a look on her face of kind of begrudging acceptance. And she kind of cocks her head to the side as though she's about to try to speak to them. And then whatever on her, like, is on her mind, I think, just kind of fades away as she becomes aware of that all-encompassing agony that's just her. Every single joint feels like it's on fire. Her skin feels like it's split. And do I need to make a roll to see if she wakes up, or does she just wake up?
No, you just wake up. You're also getting actual palliative care by 3FL.
Yeah.
Like, 3FL is trying to make sure you're not dying.
Yeah.
It hasn't been very long since Nyx passed out. It's not like an hour later. It's maybe the nanites have helped you cling to the surface level of unconsciousness so that you could come back. So it's been about 30 seconds. But in that 30 seconds, 3FL, you've been hovering next to Nyx. Alejandria is like watching across the room as much as possible. Now that the door has reopened, is watching across the room to see when or if Lucira appears. Lucira, your area is still locked down for, like, it's saying that there's heat issues to open this door, so you're locked down for a little bit. Kid, what are you doing in this moment?
How heavily is Nyx just, like, bleeding everywhere?
In a really disgusting display of psionics, a lot of Nyx's surface veins burst, splitting the skin, but the psionics clogged the blood into these, like, very weird, almost coral that have popped off Nyx's skin. So there's blood everywhere, but not in the way that you'd think.
I don't like that.
Kid. Look, they, after seeing that the door that Lucira is in is still shut, turns away from that and is reactionarily preparing to begin to take off, like, their jacket or really anything that can be used as binding, and then stops midway of taking their jacket off and just sees, like, the weird everything that is Nyx currently, and just slowly puts their jacket back on.
Nyx. 3FL, what's your reaction to the coral blood?
I think 3FL-A2 recognizes that this is probably not normal RE, like... I don't think 3FL is necessarily acknowledging this as a weird thing, because they have interacted with enough different kinds of organic life that the actual physiology of it isn't going to weird them out.
Sure.
I think their main focus is just on, this is a job that needs to get done, and I need to make sure Nyx, like, becomes conscious again.
As you're focusing on that, Nyx's eyes flutter, and as they flutter, the veins that popped in their eyelids, the coral blood cracks and breaks as their eyes kind of close, and it becomes almost like sleep and drifts into the corner of their eyes. You make sure that they are not permanently blinded by hard shards of their own blood. That's good doctoring right there. Nyx, you regain 6 hit points, irritatingly, because I rolled very well and I didn't have a smaller die close by. And you wake up.
Yeah. And so against the contrast of this sort of dark blue indigo blood that is coating, making Nyx's usually like light blue textures, the Nyx's eyeballs like are so bright orange against it, and flared out, the iris just exceptionally large, she blinks at 3FL and then beyond 3FL at Kid putting their jacket back on, and then slowly rolls her eyes like back, like trying to peek at the door where the um, fire and everything has been shut off from them. Um, and when she tries to speak, um, were the surface veins in her throat affected, or it is only external?
It's external. For the purpose that I don't want to take away your ability to speak. Because it's so funny when you try and speak.
Um, that 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 went better than expected. Um, is and she just like trails off, like looking again. And she almost wants to try to like reach out. Um, but as she does so, like as she tries to like access that part of her brain, she just shies away from it. Um, because she is in a lot of pain. Um, engineer.
You just said the word engineer. Well.
Yep, no additional context supplied.
Nile is not paying enough attention to you because they have a strange aversion to coralized blood. So, and Alejandro doesn't know what you're talking about, so the other two will have to field that question.
We will take care of whatever the situation is and you, but if you try to strain yourself to help the engineer, and that's with a question mark, then you're just going to hurt yourself more, and that will not benefit whoever you are trying to help.
Nyx just grins at 3FL, and it as she does so, it cracks the skin, the clotting around her mouth, and it's very like her kind of sharp teeth kind of shine out from that, surprisingly white against all the dark blue. She goes, very, very aware of that fact. Yeah, I've done my part. And she kind of like wheezes. But then, even a second later, she goes, Lucira?
We'll be fine. If I did my job correctly.
Lucira, you are fine.
You get a ping on your smart slab about 10 seconds later saying, made it through, door's still too hot, whatever you fucking stabbed me with worked great.
Didn't feel a thing.
Ow. Ow. Ow.
Yeah, it is wearing
Like
off,
the
and
sequential messages.
you are feeling now the significance of your burns.
There is
It's the
a
most pointed
brief.
she's ever been in a message to 3FL.
Is this just a 3FL or to a group chat?
It's just 3FL.
Okay.
When would Lucira have sent that set of messages within the whole of everything that just happened?
About 10 seconds after you responded that Lucira would be fine.
You're probably not going to get a message back because 3FL is still focusing on Nyx.
Sure. Make a xenophysiology roll for me, please, 3FL.
Hell yeah. I'm gonna get to the dice roll channel. Oh, I'm in the dice roll channel. More prepared than normal.
Well,
I'm
oiled
already
machine
here.
we are.
It's better than I usually am, where I'm like, I'm in the dice roll channel. I was not.
I just want to say I did take a 3-line note about Nyx's blood, so...
Great.
Yeah.
You begin to go into what was it, Genomancy's blood stuff.
Yeah, Genomancy would be most blood things.
Let's get mage armor.
Oh. No,
Yeah.
not mage armor. Somehow that makes it so much worse.
I also don't like that it was mage armor. Yeah, look, it's not good for cuts to have hard rock-like coral coming out of them, but it is stopping further bleeding. So you're not really sure whether the best procedure would be to remove the coral and let it bleed properly, if this is unusual for Nyx, or leave it there and let it heal behind the coral.
Would you say I passed that check or not? No. I am going to use knowledge ability and re-roll that.
Sure, you can do that. Also, for a roll like this, I will let you, when it's this middling, I will let you decide if that's a fail. But then I pick which of the two sides you're on, and then you can do iterative thing. But yes, you can re-roll it.
Yeah.
I like that 3FL has learned that asking Nyx these questions is probably fruitless. But speaking of, has Nyx ever actually experienced this?
Your blood turning to coral? No.
Yeah.
You bleed normally. Can you read the wording of the knowledge ability to me?
Yeah. Yeah. 1 second.
That one.
All prayer.
Is this just
It's gonna be a thing.
Is this just an expert ability? Just a base technician ability?
Level 1, yeah. When you would make a roll with a chosen skill, you innately know any major risks involved. Additionally, you can spend 1 expert point when you make a skill check to re-roll a die 1.
Okay. So you re-rolled it, and now it's a critical fail.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're pretty sure that removing this coral would be a bad idea. It's going to potentially keep bleeding that way, and you don't know whether or not this is normal for Nyx's people. If you break a bit off and it keeps bleeding out, then it's going to damage the tissue around the cut itself, because it is also fragmenting in a way that is jagged, not smooth. So you are very on the side of, I should leave that in. But you definitely failed if you want to roll your iterative knowledge.
Yeah, that was definitely
That is 100% a fail.
While So while 3FL-2 is making this diagnosis, they will sort of be talking out loud because bedside manner is a thing.
Sure.
They go, okay, Nyx, I am not horrifically familiar with the way in which your blood coagulates in order to prevent further bleeding. What I have been able to determine is that if I start to try to essentially edit or adjust the way that your body is doing this naturally, or I suppose with the benefits of whatever modifications have been provided through your situation, I think it will make the whole situation worse. Once we are in a safer location, we can take some time to actually diagnose the issue together. I'll give you some tea. Hopefully that will allow you to relax. And I'll make this a wisdom situation. It would make a roll using wisdom or charisma. Where did the dice channel go?
And if I remember correctly, it gives you insight going forward with this kind of situation.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So, firstly, it is always wise to talk to the patient and ask them the things, but you have done that already. Secondly, it might be worth your time in your studies to look into the prevailing blood types amongst life forms of this kind, because you know a lot about sap, and this is you think that you're looking at it through a lens of sap, which does coagulate very quickly and doesn't always tend to run like for a long time. Sometimes it does in particular plant species, but sap has a quicker clotting system. And as you're thinking about it that way, maybe you start to realize that you're filling some holes of your xenophysiology understanding with xenobotany stuff. And I will give you the ability for a nat 20 that next time you fail a xenophysiology roll, you can make a second xenobotany roll, and it will, like, replace it.
Hell, yes.
Even though you realize that it's a hole in your knowledge, you're like, but if I tap into that, then I can, like, maybe narrow things down sometimes.
Your understanding is high enough that I think that, like, probably after 3FL has finished what they were saying to Nyx, they recognize that Nyx stopped listening at coagulation, not familiar with the coagulation, and they're still being very careful not to move. It's the familiar nature of somebody who has been very hurt before and knows how to maintain absolute stillness to prevent further pain. But they just cast their eyes like downward and then just shift their chin just like the slightest amount, and she's looking at the coagulation as was described. I think I'm just going to go ahead and that seems like that's a willpower check, right? To stay out of a panic attack if you've never seen this kind of thing before.
Yes, you can make a willpower save with advantage because
Okay.
of your newfound ability of calmness while next to 3FL.
Awesome. All right.
Meanwhile, 3FL, make a perception check. Kid, you just hear what this will be. I'm not going to make you make the roll.
Yeah. So yeah, that's nice. So Nyx, her chest starts. Okay. Well. you're probably more familiar with this than I am because that's new. Oh.
I find that concerning that you are saying that 3-2 is going to and we have perception checks I know we need to resolve.
Yeah,
but...
you failed, it's fine. We'll just do kids one when it comes up.
Cool. Given the information that Charlie so kindly gifted about Nyx's like not moving pain state, 3FL, being the doctor that they are, will start to point at different people in the room, predominantly Kid first, and go, Kid, you had your jacket off a few moments ago. Could I borrow that again?
Kid will just start taking off their jacket again.
As you look at Kid, Kid, you had been hearing these little like shudder sounds as Niall is taking pictures of the atrocity that has become Nyx's body. Alejandro doesn't notice.
Are they being secretive about it?
They're being secretive about it. Make an understanding check. With wisdom or charisma in this case. Because I think it makes sense for you to be able to do either in this one.
I'm not great at this. It's fine being perceptive.
You see everything, but you don't get everything.
Yep.
I like it.
Oh, well, 21.
Pretty good. They are... Your first glance is, well, they're trying to hide that they're taking this, but then as you're watching them, it's just, they do everything in a way that is secretive. Like, there's nothing that they do, and have done since you've been spending time with them, that hasn't been, like, with an attempt to make their movements look minimal and to not stand out. But you can make that of that what you want.
Yeah, Kid will walk over to 3FL, but will do so in such a way to where they pass by and stay in front of Hail. And we'll reach down and just kind of hand 3FL the jacket, and afterwards turn and kind of just give like a look to Niall.
They hold up their smart slab and it's just a like screen with just writing on it. Your perception's high enough that you can see that it's like a payout for injury in service to the Empire form that they're like filling in. And that you can see that like the pictures are attached and things, but they also are like very hard, still trying to in no way look past you at Nyx. And when you noticed that they were taking the pictures, they were not really looking at their smart slab as the pictures were getting taken, which is part of why it looked a little bit stealthy, because they just do not want to look at whatever that is.
If that's the case, then with the perception, can Kid kind of know the angle of the smart slab?
Mm-hmm.
There's just like, if they're doing like rapid pictures, there's probably like in the like 30 or 40 that they took, there's about like 6 that just has Kid's middle finger.
Yeah. They've just batch uploaded those to the Empire, so no, I think they probably would check them. They are a reasonable spy. Lucira, you hear a little ping in this room that you're in, and the display above this mechanism, which was alive but not displaying anything other than an emergency, pings that the residual heat has dropped enough that vacating the mechanical space is possible.
She will give it another 30 seconds.
Sure.
Just to be sure. And then like as she goes to like start moving, just be like, fuck. As like all the burns that are across like her shoulders and back start to settle in, and like the kind of melty bits of her uniform are just like, oh shit. And then she will slowly make her way back to everybody else.
Sure. 3FL, what were you doing with Kid's jacket?
And the next thing that 3FL-A2 is going to do is point at probably Alejandre, and go, do you have anything like long and sturdy that we could use to create pallets to move Nyx safely to a better location?
Alejandro laughs at you asking if he has anything long and sturdy, because he is still essentially a child. But there's like a deep rumble. It's not like it doesn't have the lightness of his laugh previously. And before he answers, Niall says, I could just get a stretcher. We are an Imperial outpost. There's a medical aspect to that for occupational health and safety.
Yes, that would be preferable. I'm sorry, I'm used to working with limited supplies.
That's fine. She like goes onto her smart slab, and you like hear her do like a voice memo, and it's just like level 3 code 86-443-AL, and gets like a ping back, but there's no sound to it, and probably takes about a minute for them to bring a stretcher down, because.
As this conversation is going on, Nyx is at 6 HP right now, and her, like, I'm assuming her pain levels are still high. Is she,
You're not capable of psionics right now, if that is relevant to what you're asking.
No, she's not going to try psionics. She's not even, like, that's the furthest thing from her mind.
Just checking.
Would she, be of the opinion that she needed a stretcher, or...
Yeah, make a xenophysiology check about what you know about how it
her own,
like you are.
From her own limitations.
You don't feel like any of your bones are broken.
Okay. Trying to decide if she is a good patient or not.
You just feel like you have a body full of rigid coral.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you're thinking about your injuries, you don't know that you were standing up when this coralization happened, so whichever direction you fell in, all of that has shattered underneath your body. So you don't know that, firstly. So your back feels sore. But you look down and there's like a lot of coral, but it's not actively bleeding, and you don't think anything is broken, and your like left arm doesn't feel worse. So yeah, you could get up. This is a lot of fuss for like a not major injury. You've had a major injury.
Yeah. All right, and then my second question is time-wise, did we also hear the ping that like the oxygenation has been fixed and the temperature is stabilized?
That was in the specific suppression system was able to tell that.
Okay. So we still don't know like what the conditions of that room are from our angle.
Is that the ping that I got?
Yeah, you got that just on your... The
Okay.
machine in front of you was basically
Yeah.
like, this is fine to exit now. So you don't know, Nix.
Okay. Yeah. So then at like the whole like stretcher thing, Nyx is going to kind of blink, and her back's sore, so she doesn't want to move too much, but not that I don't want to get out of here, but really I think I know that I'm gonna survive this situation. I'll be okay. Can we do? And she like just takes a deep breath and
Make a fortitude save as you
reaches-
take a deep breath.
got it.
This is brutal.
That's why, yeah, I'm very carefully like trying to play this out slowly because I know I need to make a lot of checks here.
So the pain is not unbearable, but as your chest heaves with this breath, one of the like veins that has popped there and the coral that has pierced through your jumpsuit, like because of the movement of your flesh underneath it and the bowing of your ribs, it just like shatters, and you just feel like in a moment searing pain in that spot as you see blood begin to ooze from underneath it, but it is normal blood. The piece of coral kind of just falls away, almost intact,
Nice.
beyond the root
Beautiful.
that you just snapped with your breath.
Okay.
Blood, coral, and spider yogurt is going to be the name of an episode of this when we get fan songs written.
Oh god.
Nyx just like stops and stares at that bleeding spot, and then begins to count aloud all of the spots of coral that she has on her body that she can see without having to move. And it's just like she reverts to whatever language she spoke as she was a child. That sing-songing sort of count thing. It's kind of a coping mechanism. Because she is imagining that many fluid containment failures all going off at the same time.
All of you are getting your universal translators, just pinging in your own languages, just counting like numbers, except for 3FL who gets it in Imperial Common. Lucira, you exit the room. The door opens. It's still quite warm to touch, but not too bad. The glass that was protecting the stores upon stores of knowledge below this area is bowed and warped, and it's almost like become rolling hills of glass, where it at one point must have been flat. Now it is uneven and difficult to walk on, and you can still feel the heat emanating from the glass, but as you pick your way slowly across the room, you are not at risk of falling. And you
From that.
Yeah, from that. You might... If you fall, this glass would still be hot in an unbearably hot manner, because some of it is still a little bit, like, melted.
Yeah.
But it is very... Don't fall here is my suggestion. And I think Lucira is smart enough to be like, I shouldn't fall here.
Yeah.
But,
She's also in a lot of pain.
Yeah. It's slow going, and as you head to the door, you open the door. Same level of coolness as the other one. You open it, and your universal translator immediately is like 34, 35, 36, as Nyx is counting in a very childlike alien language. Nyx, you're at 36. I'll tell you when to stop, don't worry.
Hey, oxygen's good. It's all fixed. Well, fixed as it can be. Fuck. Oh.
There's just like pictures being taken of Lucira's burnt body.
Two reminders that I need from last time.
Mm-hmm.
Did Lucira take any like hit point damage?
Yeah, you can tell by looking at Lucira right now that yes, Lucira is quite badly injured.
Okay.
About half.
And
Yeah,
then
because it
follow
went through
up-
shields first, and then took about half
Yeah.
my hit points.
Okay. So did the prototype work? Question mark.
You'll have to have like a full like diagnosis of the prototype. Not diagnosis. Like a debrief with Lucira about what she experienced. To you,
Okay.
you can't tell right now.
Okay. And then the second reminder that I need is, I know 3FL was trying to like apply the healing stems to Nyx last session. Did we decide what the material like what I was able to salvage and what the actual material cost ended up being?
We will work it out when you're at a workshop to make more, because you don't have you basically don't have the capability to make them just in a situation like this. You have to be in a lab to make your stims at all, and I will work out what the material cost for it is then. But it's not a lot. Like, Nyx, if it's on your ship, Nyx just has the material to make more of them for you, essentially, as you like.
I'm more concerned about like the actual like plant matter as well.
No, so the 3 healing stims that you tried to stab into Nyx, they still exist as stims, they just don't have syringes. So
Cool.
if you could get any normal medical syringe and do it that way as well.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Alejandri looks at Lucira and says, you look like you got burnt a lot.
Thanks. I did.
He,
Didn't notice it actually though until I got into the room. I don't know what the hell you gave me, 3FL, but it was great.
There's like waves Lucira off a little bit because they've got bigger shit.
She will then she like starts with Alejandra and then we'll turn to see Nyx and we'll throw up a little bit in her mouth and we'll just kind of try to like like do the runner thing, like where you bend over on your knees and then be like, nope, that hurts too much, and we'll just slowly sink to the floor.
You're also in a really quite small space for 6 people because you're at the bottom of a fire escape staircase. But yes, you're all back together. As much together as you are.
Kid, that was
43 is where you end, Nyx, by the way. That you can visibly see, and you can't see your own face. And
Or
you
back.
can't see your back, and you can't really see your shoulders because you can't turn your head because there's a piece of coral there.
Yeah. Nyx kind of like stutters on 36. 36, 36, 36. Hi, Lucira. 37. 40. And then, so as she finishes out, she's looking at Lucira without moving her head as much as possible. Yeah, she completely misses the fact that Lucira's trying to restrain from vomiting at the side of her. Engineer? 43, 43, 43. Engineer?
As you say engineer 43 enough times, it who knows, maybe people start to worry about you. An Imperial guard comes down. They don't have a stretcher because it's the distant technological future, but they do have 4 pads that they will apply, or they will let you apply because you've probably seen one of these stretchers before. It applies to the side of the patient, and that essentially creates an energy field underneath them using the 4 as triangulation points. That then somebody could carry, or you could install a hovering mechanism too, which they also have.
I actually kind of like the idea that 3FL-A2, all of their like xenophysiology doctoring experience has been in this very like resource limited, low tech environment.
Stuff. Resetting
So
legs
they
with
actually
splints.
take a step back and let the professionals who handle this equipment like get Nyx on the not stretcher.
Literally just a dude. Just a guy. And he's like, okay, you seemed like you knew what you were doing.
3FL lays her eyes on a stretcher that isn't just 2 long sticks and a flannel t-shirt.
Jack, I have a question.
Yes.
When I was leaving the little maintenance room, would I have seen the room where the engineer was trying to hold stuff together on my way back through since the flames had died out?
Yeah, the generator room was empty. You noticed it on your way out.
There's no person there.
Yeah, but you didn't see a person there at any point.
At any point, okay.
Largely because you have terrible perception, and you were running through a fire.
Yes.
But it was certainly empty, and the generator looked to be fixed, and to your really minimal knowledge, was running fine. You have seen generators before, and they have looked like that in the past. The guy that has come down is quite a tall guard wearing a very standard kind of Imperial uniform. Not dissimilar to what Lucira wears, but without the flair that Lucira has added. Puts a pad very gingerly on the top of each of Nyx's shoulders, kind of moving around a piece of coral. Then at the bottom of... he also has put on gloves for this, because safety. Then like the bottom of Nyx's calves. And he pushes a button, and it just, using the 4 points, creates this kind of curved shield that then solidifies up into your back, which fortunately has no outstanding coral, because he couldn't tell that without moving you. But it has like cupped your back, and then he puts it's sort of towards the back of the top of your spine where the shield starts, the shield stretcher. Another little mechanical piece, and then another one down between your calves, and he pulls out a smart slab and pushes a button, and it just starts to hover up, and then he kind of looks to the rest of you if you want to pilot your friend's stretcher, the stretcher drone, and he hands the smart slab to 3FL, I guess. It's a very rudimentary drone mechanism that like you can just pilot around like a remote controlled corpse. Not corpse, sorry, Nyx. I just like the idea that you could have a remote controlled corpse.
I don't.
I'm like, here I am wondering if this is a spoiler.
No.
Lucira will turn to, is it Niall?
Yeah, Niall.
And say that generator room looks fine as it can be. Looks like it's up and running.
Niall nods. She's taken her helmet off and it's like put it on the ground down here. She has very long, very bright blue hair that has like unfurled from outside of her helmet. And as she nods, now that you're back, she sends through a message to get one of their engineers down to like have a look at the generator to just double check everything. Or make sure they have a technician that's coming down to make sure that all of the servers are still working and stuff. And she says, okay, maybe it would be best if we moved your friend in their condition upstairs.
Yes.
To a private room. You can have some privacy. We might have a lot of people looking at you while this is all happening.
Yeah, let's go debrief.
As they're talking, it finally clicks for Nyx. Oh, damn. That still nobody is concerned about this engineer. And she is going to break away from her, engineer 43 to, what about your employee? And she starts to like jerk her arm, but I think that the force field does the force field restrain her?
No.
Yeah, she starts to jerk
No, it's
her arm to
underneath
point.
you.
Oh, I thought it was like a surrounding sort of
No.
thing.
They could have done that.
Yeah.
They didn't think you were going to try and get up. You're covered in coral.
Yeah. So yeah, she asks,
What engineer?
I-
I didn't see anybody in that. What?
I don't remember. Did Kidron pass a perception check to
Yeah,
see
so
somebody?
3FL and Kid both passed a perception check to see a form that looked like it was holding stuff together. But Lucira is right that when you look across now with the door open, the whole wall across from you is glass, and it is empty. But through the fire, you couldn't see much more than like the outline, or almost the aura of a person, if you would. You can both make understanding checks or psionics checks if you prefer. Kid, I'll let you pick which one you either roll very badly on or very, very well, as you always do with these things.
I'll pick psionics in the hopes that I find that
Continue to be
fail one,
a genius at these powers.
I need this to start balancing, but I shouldn't be passing these checks.
What was that?
I love that everybody passes these checks. It's good.
What was that, 24,
You
Charlie?
say understanding for psionics?
Understanding of
Yes.
psionics for you, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
As much as I want to exercise my psionic abilities, I like guaranteed passing.
Well,
Only a
it doesn't
9.
guarantee passing, but... yeah, you're not sure. You're sure you saw a person, and there's no person there now, and that's weird.
Actually, did the screaming that I randomly began to hear stop?
The screaming that you heard stopped when Nyx fell. So you can actually have advantage on that psionics roll.
Oh.
Because you have that additional kind of layer. Well, you weren't guaranteed to pass, but a 27 passes most things. A lot
Wow.
of things get passed by
Most
27s.
things.
Well,
Most
this game has a top end of 40, so...
That's true.
19. Psionic.
Alright. Psionically, for some reason, Kid, you were thinking about psionics yesterday, the Nyx stuff. You passed that check yesterday, and you've been thinking about psionics, and you're like, well, part of, in movies when they show psionics, psionics, the top level psionics in movies includes things like galactic projection is a psionic ability where you can put yourself somewhere else to do a thing. And, that seems unlikely because that's just from movies. But that person was there and screaming, and then not there and screaming. So either Nyx did two things, and Nyx, there are two of them. Which, maybe. But your psionics, leads you to believe maybe something very powerful happened. Or Nyx has split their mind into two different personalities, and both are operating on a psionic level. You can pick of those two which is more fun for you.
Kid at some point had just walked into the Red Rider break room and caught the tail end of Reed watching The Last Jedi when Luke was astral projecting.
Yeah, but psionic astral projection is... I haven't seen Last Jedi, so maybe it's the same, but you can essentially interact with the world as if you were there. It's just very difficult. 3FL, as you're thinking back on that moment as Nyx is talking about the employee that was in that room, you can remember seeing a form of pale lavender surrounded by a pink aura, and thinking that was, at the time, I'm looking through fire, there's weird stuff happening, and I'm focused on other stuff. But as you're thinking more back to it, and with your ability to you have quite good short-term recall with your processes and stuff, you remember. I like just being able to go, well, also, you are technically just a computer with, deep sentience, so there is a storage bank here.
But aren't we all just computers?
That's for episode 50 of 3FL Journey. when you come back around to everybody is a computer, and we are all but robots. Don't spoil the end of your own arc. But you remember vividly seeing that and then being able to see through it, as it was not as corporeal as most forms are. But who knows? Who knows how physiology works in this world? Before we move on, Nix, what was the 20 for?
Oh, those were just I've been rolling background stuff, sometimes in dice rolls and sometimes to see if Nyx noticed, like, that they weren't going to do anything about the engineer in her distraction and pain.
Okay.
So that was, I already resolved that for myself.
Great. I was like, why did you roll this 20? Kristen, go ahead.
3FL-A2, does Nyx, like, try to sit up? When she says that?
No, more like Nyx is trying to fling her arm to point, because she is aware that she shouldn't sit up, but she's also panicking.
Okay. 3FL, like, grabs the flinging hand, sort of like in one of, I can't do it with myself, like in this sort of...
Oh, Predator Bro Shake, yep.
And, like, guides it back down to the bed and goes, I will have Kid go and check to make sure that no one is still there, Nyx. You did your job, and I think it's going to be okay. We're worried about you now, and you only have to worry about you now.
Is Niall does Niall have an expression of any like recognizing at all on her face?
Niall's probably come and stood next to you as like, these people are weirdos. I kind of understand. You did just run into fire, but like fundamentally we have gone through the same training, so there is like some kinship here. And you can see that on her smarts lab, she's like checking for crew and like where they're accounted for. And all of her crew are either dead in the bandit attack or accounted for, or the person that they know to be the traitor that let people into the building. Like, she doesn't have an unaccounted for engineer. As you look at, like, this crew roster, it's not a big crew roster, it's like 10 guards, 4 engineers, 10 tech, and there was a commander, but you can see that it's like the name that people use for when there's no commander and it's like an Imperial agent that's in charge of the operation, and they want like the deniability of being like, oh yeah, you're gonna go talk to like Commander Stone. That's a real person. And it's not a real person.
Alright. And on Nyx's end, okay, so I've just rolled for myself a willpower to see if she's compelled to settle down, and a other one to see if she is aware of what's going on. And so yeah, Nyx does settle down when 3FL tells her that she's finished, like she's done her job. And the way she settles down is almost like a puppet with its strings cut. Her kind of like sideways chatter just stops, and you see tears start to leak from her eyes as she stares up, like past 3FL at the ceiling. She just and lets herself be shuttled.
We find the group moments later, or maybe minutes, 'cause it's not easy to control or hover, stretcher up a flight of stairs.
3FL is also going to like ask Kid to maybe do like another passing perception check in that area, or investigate or whatever is appropriate, because they said that they would do that.
Are you going to go over to that room, Kid?
Kid already doesn't think there's anyone there, but we'll still go. Mainly for the show of it.
And also wait for Kid.
I was about to say also because it gives Kid some space, but alright.
Well, I mean, you're still going to be
wait in the
150
stairs.
feet away.
Yeah. She's just waiting at the bottom of the stairs for you.
Kid
to
has
make
a
sure that
movement
nothing
speed
else-
of 30 feet around, but is walking at 15 feet around to, like, include the space more time. You get to this door. It's a glass door. The handle seems to be made out of some kind of ceramic, and as you put your hand near it, you feel that there's not a lot of heat coming off it at all. And as you open it, a wave of, like, cool energy, not cool energy, but like a wave of cool temperature kind of blasts into this room from the still temperature control generator room. You look around. Make me a perception check.
That is a nat 1 for a 14.
You don't see anything. I mean, you see a generator, but
Yeah.
and the generator, as all generators you've seen, is working, and seems to be working correctly. As you look around, you don't really see even much of a sign of someone having been in here. You do see like a couple of bits of where like metal has sheared apart, and then where the connection has been remade and rehooked in. You can tell that there's been like some grinding away of an exterior coating of metal there, even with your one. That's like very obvious, but you can't see anything else in this room.
Okay. In the movies that Kid has watched, usually whenever someone like psionically projects, there's usually like some sort of weird marking on the floor afterwards. So it's just absence of that.
They leave like
Okay.
a galactic tag of their presence having been there.
Yeah.
Or a scorch mark if they died. These kind of things.
Yeah. So in the absence of that, Kid will subconsciously kind of tick up the possibility of Nick somehow shearing their like soul in half.
I really like that as a character idea now. We see Kid turn back and like begin the long walk, and then we cut to a few minutes later when you're all upstairs in a room that could maybe be considered like a xenophysiology lab if you really had to stretch. Like if you really had to do emergency surgery for someone, you could do it here, but it looks closer to like a med bay. Not a med bay, because that's a good thing. Like a nurse's office at a school.
Mhm.
Perfect. This is
High school
exact-
nurse office.
Does it have that? Does it have that
Working
bench? Does it have that bench with the really annoying, super thin paper that's super crinkly whenever you sit on it?
Roll me a d20, because I think it was interesting to find out how technologically advanced this room is when they're really just a research station, so they wouldn't use it that often.
If I roll a nat 20, can it also have those like multi-step like that come out and they always like hit your shin for some reason?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure. If you roll a nat
While
20,
he's
you can
rolling that-
describe everything about it. But yes.
While he's rolling that, just a quick note: Lucira is currently drafting a note to Zophar. That's just saying, my companions know my status. Please advise. And she will just hold on to that until we are no longer on a pirate planet to send out.
Sure, that makes sense. Unfortunately, as you get in, there's like a long, it looks more like an autopsy table than a pleasant, like, well, not pleasant, but like a nurse's bed. But it's designed to have, because the stretcher conforms to your body, so it's very comfortable to lie on. It's designed to have that placed on top of it. So 3FL, you pilot the drone bed just onto that. Otherwise, the room is very metal. The walls are like a darkened metal. The lights are very bright. The floor is like a very grey stone. So it's not a particularly nice room to be in, but this is not a place where you're meant to think, what a great place we're in.
So quick at various points, because this has all been like what, a 2-hour period?
Yep.
The past 5 sessions.
This has been like 8 hours.
You got trapped in a
At
rock,
most.
I would say 6 hours ago. Trapped under a
Great.
rock 6 hours ago
Yes.
is about right.
So
Because it's about a 4-hour drive here.
this is important to me and no one else, I'm sure. Well, maybe to other people. Probably to other people. I at some point, like when we were in the car, had narrated like 3FL-A2 giving away their flannels,
Mm-hmm.
all of their different flannels
Yep.
to different people. Have they gotten those back? Where are they?
If you gave one to Alejandria, Alejandria gave it back to you. If you gave one to Nyx, I'm going to say Nyx didn't give it back to you.
Yeah, Nyx is 100% like, you know, draped in jumpsuit that has now been perforated by coral and, you know, a flannel.
That's also been
And Kid
perforated with gold.
And Kid has one.
Yep. Which is
Okay.
still tied around their waist.
Okay. I just wanted to know.
That is important. Keeping track of your flannel resources is an important part of the Infinite.
Yeah.
Well, they've become like the like you know how when you watch really bad TV and like the emergency response team comes and rescue, they're like, and here's your panic attack blanket.
Yeah.
Those are what they are.
Yep.
So yeah,
And
yeah.
a tech flannel.
3FL does like with I think requesting the support of Kid on this, gently pilot the knot stretcher, the high tech stretcher onto the austere surface, and how many people are in this room currently?
Everybody has come up with you, but Niall was probably murmuring along the way to Lucira that they should probably go and debrief. But wanted to make sure that Nyx was properly looked after in the time that was happening, because they feel responsibility for Nyx's injuries.
And then 3FL is going to so anybody who is not one of our core group, 3FL is going to do their best to shoo away.
Like, all of you and Niall, and you're shooing Niall out of the base that she runs.
Yes.
She like nods and goes, "Oh, sure, of course. Come
I'll
in,
be outside
Shendia,
in a moment."
whenever you have a moment." And she's like reaching into her sleeve, and she's pulled out a hair tie, and she's like tying up her hair, and sighing, and walks out. And you see like outside there are 3 different people waiting to talk to her about like other stuff that's been happening during this attack. But now it's just the core group and Alejandri, who I'm considering to be part of the core group for that.
Yeah, of course. It goes without saying.
Kid, wait,
Lucira?
there's a hand up.
It's for 3FL.
Uh,
Where's my jacket?
Okay.
You're just all trading clothes now.
3FL has wrapped it around their waist, and now we're twins.
Awful.
They don't know when they're gonna have to switch back into survival doctor mode. If Kid requests it back, they will 100% give it back.
No, that's fine. I was more. Chris was wondering where my jacket went.
It was like a big thing to get your jacket. Alright, so it is the core group of you in this room.
Lucira, when I am done talking to Nyx and making sure that Nyx does not die within the next 2 minutes, I would very much like to chat with you in private.
Sure. Anything you need?
Okay. Nyx, are you doing better?
Nyx is just kind of sort of staring back, like still staring off, and like wet-eyed and fine. I'm fine.
I do not like any of this, and I want to go home.
I don't. No, I don't like this either.
What do you want?
I think Nyx just kind of trails off for a very long moment and then says, I I I don't know.
You ever asked yourself that before?
Nyx kind of cuts her eyes over at 3FL, squinting slightly. And this sounds like a question, I think, that to her she would associate with Chips, whether or not Chips ever asked her this kind of question.
Chips knows your history, so would never ask you this question.
Yeah. But just like the theme of it, like it makes her think about Chips, and she goes, I can we do this later? Can we maybe later maybe? Yeah, and just forcibly looks away again. And what's your passive understanding again? It's insane. It's just insane.
I get a +10 to that.
Yeah, okay, it's insane. Yeah, Nyx is 100% convinced, like, that by that whole display, the conversations that went on. She's in like a quiet sort of mourning. She's still crying, not because of the pain, but because she thinks that, you know, that her job is done because it's not possible to succeed anymore. She thinks that the engineer is gone, like dead, and that everybody has lied to her for it. So.
Okay. 3FL takes Nyx's hand again. I am happy to continue this kind of conversation in a more private setting if this is something that is personal, but I need you to understand that you do not think about yourself anywhere near enough. And that's okay to do when you're dying.
It's okay. I'm not dying. I'm definitely not dying. I think I would know if I was dying, right? Like, I would know if I was dying.
Alejandro
She's like
taps on a
looking to everyone in
machine
the
that is nearby and says, "This says you might be dying." It's like an off machine.
Kid internally kind of just like they kind of like look down to their rifle and just in their mind just says, "I don't think anyone I ever shot knew they were gonna die."
Kids secretly thinking that they should have joined the Grandmother's Carnage in Space PMC, and their whole life would have been different. Also,
yeah, kid idly just kind of like scratches the little sticker on the rifle that says "Grandmother in a state of mind."
Lucira, this is a very standard place. You can go find some burn cream if you like in this small
Yes,
little
I will do
infirmary.
that.
She's putting on burn cream. But back to Nyx and 3FL.
She's just unzipped her jumpsuit that she wears. It has just like kind of, and has tied the sleeves around her waist, and it's just in like her tank top sports bra thing. Oh, and it's just slowly like not even like rubbing it, just like very slowly, just like patting it on her shoulders because it hurts so much.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose I wouldn't know if one would know if they were dying or not. What I do know is I currently do not have the materials on me to make sure that you do not step closer to that and to bring you back to a healthy state. And I know I can go gather those materials and put my healing stems back together, but I can't leave you until I know you're not going to do something to hurt yourself even more.
Nyx kind of blinks. Why would I hurt myself? I'm not dying. You can do what you need to do. But I would like something for the. It does hurt. It does hurt quite a bit. So that would be really nice. Also Lucira probably needs. That looks like it hurts too. I don't like burns. Burns are really unpleasant. But I'm not dying.
Do you promise me that you will not move from this spot if I take a step away from the bed?
Nyx kind of squints. If nothing else like changes drastically, if this room is on fire, I'd probably leave because I'd rather not burn to death, even if it does mean I bleed to death. Burning to death sounds really awful, but barring a situational change like that, sure. You said my job's over. I've got nothing left to do, right?
What you have left to do is to take care of yourself. And 3FL with that will take a step away and start assessing what materials are available in here, and might poke their head out to talk to Neil and see if there's an actual lab space that they can utilize.
This is the best they have for xenophysiology. I'll just answer it as a whole because you have time, and Lucira can help point you to where standard stuff is. There are some higher end chemical things that will reduce pain, stop blood clotting, things like that. As you've spent more time watching Nyx, and after the one broke and it continued to bleed underneath, that blood has clotted normally, and you are inclined now to think that the best thing to do is to remove the coral so that the wounds can close over, because the coral would be stopping that now. And if you wanted to do that, you could find something in here that sped up the coagulation process so that the bleeding would not be too significant. They have a blood bank built up of 150 different types of blood. You just have to cross match it with Nyx's blood and hope there's a match. There might be. Kind of comes down to luck in a galaxy this big. But they also have the machine to do that. They also have access to more information than any place you've ever been in their servers. So if you wanted to look up, in their server base, just a keyword search for, medical diagnosis coral blood, you might get something back that helped you with that. That's how expansive these servers are.
Perfect. Let's start with that suggestion.
Great. That's going to take you some time. I like that Nyx gave you a bunch of well, if something drastic changes, because then I was is it okay as a GM to just teleport someone away to see how long someone would keep a promise for? And then I realized that was not okay, and I was sad about it. Alright, you're going to be looking for Nyx medical stuff. Alejandro will stay here to make sure that Nyx doesn't go too far.
That's not awkward at all.
I will turn off my phone. Well, we'll say here also, where else would Alejandro go?
No, I'm just, recently crystallized person, recently coralified person who is responsible for the crystallization. It's all good.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but also I wouldn't consider your current plight to be equivalent to his lifetime of shattered
Oh, no, not at all.
body. But, if you want to compare the two, I would be interested to see how he took it. Lucira, you have a debrief to have with your superior officer, although it is important to say that while Nile outranks you, the ranking structure is that you would never report to another agent class. You'd always report to a night agent. So it's very much they have more experience than you.
Mm-hmm.
Kid, do you have anything in particular you would like to do? You're welcome to sit in on any of their things or find a space for yourself. Niall is happy to give you like a private room that you can recover in.
How easy is it to get back outside?
If you ask, they will happily let you back outside, but they would prefer that if you go outside, it's not for a long period of time, because they're probably not gonna, like, they don't want you to go off for 24 hours and then come back, unless, like, they know what you're doing, because it's a secure location. But yeah, you can go outside. That's fine.
Yeah, Kid will assure them that they won't be very long. They just need to go outside.
Sure, they're happy to do that.
Since the fire died down, and since everything has gotten quiet, and there's no longer any noise to distract them, they have been fighting back a feeling that they've had before, as over the course of this day, they have progressively gotten to where they can't breathe again. And they just need to go out. They just need to be away.
Sure. We'll do that first. We'll do the you heading out first, and then we'll come back to you once you are suitable distance away. As you head out, you see you're going out through the front entryway, which you saw very briefly, but it was mainly there were some guards with guns. You smell that scent of iron and blood again, as you see them moving bodies, both of bandits and of some of the guard that was stationed here. As you're kind of walking, you are on the second level and you have to go up to the first level. As you're traveling, you see now that the urgency is less, you see these telltale signs of like bullet holes and laser scorch marks. You see blood splatters down here. You see these different things being flipped over as if used as cover. You can see, like, as if you're tracing the path of a battle. It seems like the bandits started at the base on the third level, or even maybe the second level, came in somehow this way and fought up towards the front. And then when you get to the front on your way out, that's where the bulk of, like, the deaths happened. But there were injuries done all the way through here. And to the Imperial Guard's credit, you count them piling 10 or 11 bandit bodies up, and there's only 4 of them that have been laid out in their, like, in a far more... They are far more respectful of their dead than the bandits' dead, in a way that maybe not typical for the Empire. The Empire tends to treat all casualties in a conflict pretty badly, but they're in the heat of the moment, and pretty well. Pretty well. Equally. I meant to say equally. I wouldn't have even noticed I said the wrong thing, except I turned and looked at Kristen being like, what? Thank you. Pretty well. They treat both sides of a conflict pretty well, but these are people that were just in the moment and have had their friends killed, and like they are struggling to carry that tenant out. But you head out. Do you just say you want to go outside, or are you like you need to go somewhere? Niall will ask as you ask him. Do you need to travel some distance? We could give you some kind of bike or something, provided you're back relatively soon.
I just need fresh air.
Okay. She gives you like a card that has a key code to get back in the front door, and as you're watching it, it's like a digitized card. The key code resets to 0 and then resets to like a new 6-digit code, and she says this will last for 2 hours. After that, you'll have to buzz in, and if I'm available, it will be easy. If I'm not, it will not be.
Gotcha.
And, she turns, and as you leave, she's saying to a researcher, she's like, I understand that your study of linguistics is very important, but unfortunately I cannot give you the room because people are using it to deal with life-threatening injuries at the moment. There's this a researcher. You like are retreating so hard you don't hear their response, but you hear the volume of it, and it is a very entitled, like, an entitled volume you hear as you are moving away. Lucira, you're also here for this.
Before Kidron steps outside, she will place a hand on Kidron's shoulder and just squeeze it gently for like 5 seconds as an acknowledgement, and we'll let them go.
That's very funny. All right, kid, you head out. You can travel as far as you like, and we'll come back to you. Lucira, Niall is dealing with the head of the researchers, who is not this linguist, who is just like double checking about lost data and stuff, things that are relevant because it is their entire job. They're dealing with the head of the guards, who's like explaining the losses and the casualties. They're dealing with the head of the listening station that's here, and trying to see if there was any reason that they were targeted now, and they're like going to correlate that data and stuff. And then at the end, there's just this really irritating and indignant linguist who's just like, I need this. And by the time Niall has dealt with the other three, who are all very professional, she just essentially shuts this person down and says, what you need is to be elsewhere, or I will evict you from the entire station. Not station, listening center. No. Complex. My brain is bad today. The entire complex. And we will revoke your contract, and then we'll have to talk about how much you know about the workings of the Empire. It's the closest to a veiled threat that you've ever heard an Imperial agent give.
There's just like very much like glaring daggers at this person and trying to be like
Yeah. Just understand
Burns.
the situation. Like, a little bit.
Yeah.
But they do understand the threat, which is the important thing. And you and Niall go towards the back of the first floor. There's an office which says on the front of it, Commander. Doesn't have a name, because everybody that works here understands there's no commander. But if somebody comes in, somebody else might do it. She like walks in. And as soon as she walks in, the same way that every Imperial agent does, she just changes demeanor completely. She's like a different person when she's like, okay, well, it's just us now. I don't have to deal with this bullshit. She's just like, you know, I didn't want this position. I wanted to go out, it doesn't matter. I wanted to go, there's something happening in an outpost at the edge of the galaxy, of the Imperial space, and I was interested, but it doesn't matter. Thank you so much for responding to the message.
Unexpected, but I'm glad you're alive and that most of your crew seems to still be alive.
And yours, your disparate companions, the most normal people I've ever seen traveling with an Imperial agent.
Funny story there. Maybe I'll tell it to you sometime. For now, what matters though is that they were here with me and we got that generator back up and running and the flames out.
She nods. Have you ever met in the Night Guard? The head of the Night Guard does not have a title, but then there's a second branch and a third branch, and they're the second and third in command. And she says, "Have you ever met the third branch of the Night Guard?"
Oh, I remember the third branch
No,
of the Night Guard.
of course not, because
Okay.
no.
No, I have not.
She nods.
Primarily been just a regular agent out in the field.
Great. Then I think it's only fair that we share this privilege together. As she clicks a button and a wall like pops up at the edge of the office, and there's a hologram projector, and it begins to flicker to life. And this hologram projects a very, very proper looking woman. She's tall, she's got very pale skin, dark hair. Make me either an Imperial law check with whatever stat you like, or a perception check.
I'll go Imperial, and I'll do it with intelligence.
Sure. I had a feeling you wouldn't pick perception.
Really, I wonder why. +5. $11.
There is a familiarness to this person that you cannot shake from your, like, you see them and you're like, this looks like someone. It looks like someone, but you can't work out where that placement is coming from. And you've been on a lot of ships, and you're like, it's not someone from a ship, even. Like, it's not, I've met a deep relative of this person. This is like, it's like seeing a celebrity's sibling or cousin that has a similarity, but you can't place who the celebrity is either. And as the holograph starts, she begins to speak, and she goes, she doesn't start with she's a very proper person. She says, well, I've read the report that you just submitted, Niall. It seems that the immediate danger to your people has been averted. Thanks largely to the help of Commander Shemdir, to which the third branch inclines her head to you in the hologram. Also, it is insane the amount of power and resources that it would take to transmit a hologram from the Imperial space to here. Even you, who does not have a great understanding of this stuff, like, this is essentially an instant transmission in real time in a way that you have no idea how that would work functionally with what you understand about infrastructure.
I'm trying to stand like in the rest position, but then I realize that is killing my back, and then I will just.
I think they realize at the same point you do, and to say, you at ease. Obviously, it has been a rough day for the both of you. There's a little bit where they debrief with the bandit attack itself and like where people came in and what they know about the person that did it. You pick up that information, and if it is ever relevant, I will let you know. And they say, did you notice anything else when you were securing the servers and the generator?
I did not. Seems some of my fellow, the group I'm traveling with, so they saw something, but serious injuries were also obtained, so I do not know about the true. What's the word I'm looking for? Oh my god, I'm Maddie. I'm blanking on the word I'm trying to think about here.
Mm-hmm. I just spent 4 times going for complex, so.
The reliability. Thank you. The reliability of those sightings. They are currently recuperating, but I don't know for sure.
Third branch nods and says, all right. I would like, if possible, to speak to the entirety of your group, if they are amiable, to bestow upon you rewards for service to the Empire. Additionally, I had received a report that you were present on the Heart when it... the word is not escaping the third branch, but she doesn't want to say the word, because that is a deep catastrophe and it's an open wound for the Empire, and she just doesn't want to say it, so she just lets that hang and says, is it likely... Do you know anything about what happened at the Heart that day?
I don't. I was finishing up a rally effort, as is part of my job description. And I was walking back to my quarters when everything exploded. I, along with my group mates, found a ship, and it somehow We all blacked out and somehow we were far away.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I know. That's all I can remember.
Okay. Tell me about this ship.
It's nothing like I've seen before. I don't know who made it, but it's fast. But not right now. It was fast then and isn't anymore. I'm not great at the engineering aspects of ships, but other than its odd design, it seems to be just a normal ship that just looks weird. I I can't explain how we got from the heart to where we are now.
Would you consider yourself to be being deceptive by omitting the fact
Yeah,
that it has
I
a
am
god?
being.
Then could you
Yeah.
roll deception?
Yes, I can. Very much speaking around the truth here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only a 12 though.
They rolled not well, but they beat a 12. They nod and they say, okay. We were concerned that there was a ship that had gone missing that housed a god, but evidently not your ship that disappeared outwards of the galaxy.
That has a what? A god?
Yes. You know, those things that people worship.
He'll look at these people.
Yeah, don't look at the webcam screen. That's impossible to like have any reaction that is normal.
I just looked at Kristen and I just lost it. If there was a god on the ship that we got on, then I've not seen one.
The third branch kind of laughs and says, okay, I suppose that's fine. In that case, it is no longer a request that I talk to the rest of your group.
Very well.
At their convenience, the hologram magic, as it were, kind of can go whenever.
Okay. I will, Lucira is very shaken and like the shock as well as finally set in of the burns. And she will send a ping to the group chat that requests everyone's presence, sans Nix if incapacitated, and in the commander's office immediately.
Oh, Niall, you can unlock protocol. And there's a moment where she's trying to remember the protocol. You have infinite protocols in the Imperial Agents. You know this. It's just irritating. Protocol GX3? Unless that is for use only... Does GX3 make sense, Niall? And Niall is like looking through a giant telephone book of codes. You don't know what GX3 is because it is probably not a thing that you've ever needed to know. And Niall says, yes. Yes, third branch. And nods and goes to... in the wall, there's like these big boxes and they all have like very strange codes on them. You can decipher some of them. Some of them you don't understand because you have not been trained to understand them. And she pulls one out. And inside it there are... it's just a brace of needles, basically. And she pulls out one of the needles and offers it to you.
I recognize what it is.
Yeah, it's a needle filled with something. You can make an understanding check if you like. She handed it to you in a very plain fashion.
I will just because I'm so thrown off by this third branch. Whoops. Wrong channel. $22.
You don't feel, and from Niall, you can't really get anything from a hologram because this person, well, I'll roll. Maybe they are giving away stuff, but they're very good at being deceptive. They are the third best spy in the Empire. They did beat a 22. Niall is not trying to hide anything because she doesn't have a need to. You don't feel anything from Niall that you would read as like remorse or worry about the impending thing that is about to happen as they hand you the nail. They're smiling at you in a very plain smile.
But like, I was asking more about like, is it like this is like a thing to like to help with pain or calm emotions?
You can make the assumption that it is likely that it is going to help with something like that, unless it's going to kill you. And with a 22, you can't tell for sure that it won't kill you.
Great. Great. Well.
But they are both watching you now.
Yeah. Then I will slowly plunge it into my arm. That's not finding a spot that is not burned, and we'll put it in my arm.
Sure. I have to type something. I have to type something and remember how the die switch works because I never roll stuff here. I just never use die switch, so every time I'm like, how does die switch work? How is brain? You immediately heal for 57 hit points, and your burns begin to knit back together.
Double my max hit point.
I think that was a good roll on 12d4.
Yeah.
It's also plus 24. And then Niall pulls out, knowing how many of you are injured, she's not going to give you 5. She knows that only Nyx is injured, and she pulls that out and hands it to you to give to Nyx.
Okay.
She rolls the bandolier of the best healing that you can get that way in the galaxy back up into a drawer and just goes clink.
Thank you.
This is fundamentally economy breaking in terms of its expensiveness, so please let me know when you are ready with your companions. And the hologram stops.
Yeah. Are they on the? Is there the group on their way? I already sent them the ping.
Yeah, it's been about 15 seconds since you all got the ping. You are 3FL. You are just so deep into trying to work out how to search the Imperial database, like trying to learn the best strings to get the good results. That it probably takes you a little bit of time to get to that point.
Lucira will send a secondary ping that says, "This is an order from above my station."
An order that none of
Nyx
you are
must come
beholden
as well.
to. None of you are beholden to this order because you're not in Imperial space. Kid, you're so far out of this area now. Nyx, you can't pick up your
send a
smart
third
slide.
one. There'll be a third message that says, "They know about the heart."
A message that to everybody else is like, of course they do. It was an Imperial station that flew up. Alright, Nyx, you can't reach your smart slab, but Alejandri will, let you know. And then look to see if somebody's coming to explain what should happen.
Nyx kind of looks down at the stretcher and says, so do you think this counts as the situation evolving enough for me to leave this room?
Oh,
Absolutely not.
I don't know. I'm not really, particularly in this incarnation of myself, a doctor. There have been times, but I don't want to get into it because it's ethically bad. I could pilot your stretcher and then you're still on the stretcher, but fair warning, there's a part of me that does feel like I should be responsible for you falling off a vehicle. So you gotta take that risk.
Jesus Christ.
Nyx, go ahead.
I'm gonna need you to take 800 psychological damage.
Just the nonchalant shade.
With all due respect.
You have to be in a
Separate.
different room to be doing your research stuff.
To whomstever. I really want to hear. I really want to hear 3FL and
Alejandro just opened a call to 3FL.
With
So
all due respect, you are DM. I am broken.
this might be a good time to take a break, actually.
Yes,
while Nix
please.
recovers.
Everyone's a little bit wacko.
Yeah. So we will take a 10-minute break. It will go a little bit longer like they normally do. And we'll be back to maybe just never hear Nix's response to that.
If there is one.